or a democratic republic because a growing majority of taxpayers can simply vote themselves larger and larger shares of the minority's wealth. That, Mike, is, as you know, is precisely what destroyed free societies going all the way back to the Greco-Roman democracies.
Well, we know that. We understand that. But we have a media opposed to democracy, and we have a president opposed to a democracy. We have an Axelrod opposed to a democracy, and Emmanuel opposed to a democracy, and we don't know how to stop them because we have no voices out there. And that's why I had Dr. Bob Moffett on the Savage Nation. Bob, it's a very dangerous situation we're in, and I thank you very much for your expertise. Thank you again.
Mike, thank you so much.
49 minutes after the hour, we have gone from mourning in America to mourning for America under this con man from Chicago. I'll be right back.
Armstrong and Getty.
They're not bullies with a microphone.
Weekday morning, 6 to 10. Talk 910 KNEW.
It's not only about taxing the successful in America, as you just learned on the Savage Nation. It is my supposition that the reason Obama, the dictator, wants a new healthcare system in America is because just as all dictators want to control the people from cradle to grave, the best way to do it is by controlling and meting out medication and medical care. They will also have your medical records with which they can blackmail you. I don't think you understand what you're dealing with here. In fact, I'm sure most of you don't because it's too frightening. The Apostle Paul said this, "This we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." The Apostle Paul said that if any would not work, neither should he eat. Any claim to compassion that denies this principle is not real compassion. I believe it is nothing less than robbery to take money from working taxpayers to give to people who can work for a living but choose not to do so, or people who can keep themselves healthy but are too lazy to do so. Because these policies perversely punishes those who are willing to work for a living and makes them sustain other people who refuse to work. This undermines a society because it gives everyone who can work an incentive to stop working. That paragraph comes from the new chapter of my new book, Banned in Britain, page 6 of chapter 2. I'm working on it as I speak. It's my summer job. Now, why am I working on 2 books at my age while I'm earning a good living as a talk show host? Why am I doing it? Do I do it because I want to make more money? Not really. I'm doing it because I have an important message to send. I have an important message about freedom of speech. I have an important message about how I have been targeted because I am the most outspoken conservative in the American media. I have an important message about how there was collusion between the U.S. State Department, I believe, and the British government. I have a very important message of warning for everyone listening to this program, liberal or conservative or someone in between, that today it's me and tomorrow it's you. And I'm warning you about this so-called health care reform. I can smell it a mile away. It smacks of a Soviet-era dictatorship. It smacks of Cuban-style medical care. It is nothing but a power grab of the highest order. It has nothing to do with compassion. It has nothing to do with wanting to cut costs. It has everything to do with aggrandizing power in the hands of Barack Hussein Obama and his minions from Chicago's political machine. They want to control you from cradle to grave. Nancy Pelosi would like to control you from cradle to grave. Barack Obama wants to control your medication from cradle to grave. They will not let you have a private medical care option. They will tell you you must go to the government doctor. And what might that government doctor do to you if you are a political opponent of the administration? What might they do to you once they have you in their office? What might they recommend be done with you once they have you in their grips? Will they declare that you have some kind of psychiatric disorder that needs further treatment for compassionate reasons in a government-owned medical facility somewhere out in the deserts of Utah? I don't know. Could it happen? It's already happened in the Soviet Union.
Savage. Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7 on Talk 910 KNEW and online at 910.
This presentation of the Savage Nation is brought to you by Inheritance Funding Company.
The Savage Nation.
He has it all covered.
Weekday afternoons 3 to 7. Talk 910 KNEW.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
Just have insurance reform without making health insurance affordable by assisting people in buying their insurance coverage. And that is going to require the expenditures not only by cuts in the system, but also by bringing in greater revenues.
Yeah, and where's Pelosi? What I asked for instead of Nostroman, you played the wrong cut. It's the Savage Nation. We are talking about the Soviet-era medical system that Axelrod and Emmanuel are trying to jam down your throats before the August recess, because the more people see this, the less they like it. It's interesting that this character Axelrod, the backroom dealmaker from Chicago, said this today about the so-called healthcare overhaul, which is really, as I say to you, Soviet-era medical care. Axelrod said, quote, ultimately, this is not about a process, it's about results. Think about what he just said. This is not about a process, it's about results. And he's willing to go forward with a partisan vote. When he says this is not about a process to get this through, but about results, he is repeating an old communist line, by all means necessary. He said we'd like to do this with the votes of members of both parties, but the worst result would be to not get health care reform done. Again, Axelrod is using Soviet-era thinking, which is by all means necessary. I have a book in my hand, which I referred to last week, Out of Mao's Shadow, about the dictator Mao Zedong, who caused the deaths of 60 million fellow Chinese during his desire to bring about compassionate care for all. In order to make a few eggs, you have to break an omelet. And he broke 60 million eggs to make the omelet of the communist revolution that he wanted to make in China. He killed 60 million of his fellow Chinese in order to see his absolute power live on for as long as possible. And I found a chapter in there on communist health care in China, about the system that actually exists to this day in the SARS epidemic that exploded not too long ago. And the reason the SARS epidemic exploded was because of the secrecy of the communist government. And it reads like this. The Communist Party devotes tremendous resources to the collection and control of information, and the care which it guards its secrets has been critical to its ability to stay in power. Did you hear that? The care with which it guards its secrets has been critical to its ability to stay in power. But its institutional obsession with secrecy can also leave it vulnerable. And as a result, the SARS epidemic got out of control. It started with a cook who cooked wild animals in a certain restaurant. It started right there in a little restaurant. A chef at a restaurant that cooked wild animals to order in Szechuan across the border from Hong Kong. This chef came down with a fever and checked into a hospital in his hometown of Huiyan, another city in the southern province of Guangdong. The chef was diagnosed with a serious case of pneumonia, but within days, several doctors and nurses at the hospital had also fallen ill. By the first week of January, provincial authorities had sent a team of medical experts to investigate. And by the third week, a more serious outbreak had been reported in the city of Zhongshan, near the provincial capital of Guangzhou. And it went on and on and on. It was a highly infectious disease, not pneumonia. and it was a report that could have stopped SARS before it became a global epidemic, but the Communist Party's knee-jerk secrecy ensured that it was never widely distributed among the nation's hospitals. That's exactly what Axelrod and Emmanuel and Obama and Waxman are trying to do to you with this so-called healthcare overhaul bill. They are using communist-era tactics. They are using secrecy. They are using gangster-like tactics to make sure no one reads the whole bill. They do not want an open debate in sunlight. They want no debate whatsoever. Now, you have to say, well, what is the end goal? Many of you are deluded. Many of you think you're going to benefit. Many of you think you're going to get something for nothing. Many of you like the idea that the rich will pay more, even though they are the ones supporting you now. As we learned in the last hour, 80% of all taxes are paid by the top 20% of earners in this country, and those of you in the lowest 50%